Hey, what's up, spirit souls? As always, I hope you're having a fantastic day. And today I was inspired to share something that's been in my mind. I've been watching a few videos online, or I came across a few videos online where people with millions of followers, right? Their YouTube channel has literally millions of followers, and they're speaking about what's going on right now in India with COVID, around the world. People wearing masks, not wearing masks, right? The fights, the conspiracy theory, not a conspiracy theory, the intention of governments and groups to control the push and pull that is going on, right? And it's interesting to me that I see all these people that come from a place of trying to be free, right? Trying to set themselves and those around them free from control, right? Control from the government, control from institutions, and it's just interesting because they do that by pushing against it, right? By pushing against it, speaking. They say, "Oh, you have to speak up, speak your truth." And it seems to me that it sounds good what they're saying. It sounds like, okay, this is something. It is an approach. It might be an efficient approach. I think it's a good way to speak your truth and push against these groups that are trying to control us, right? And I do believe that these groups exist not only today, but have existed throughout history, right? It's the tendency of the misidentification with the body to try to control our environment, right? We think ourselves as the controllers. So I'm not going to argue that point. It's just the approach of pushing against it. It seems to me that is based in a strong false premise, which again is the false premise that we are the doers, we are the controllers, right? In the Vaishnava philosophy, at least based on my understanding, I would be interested to hear what you have to say if you're familiar with that philosophy, right? Especially Gaudiya Vaishnavism in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's he himself, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Kṛṣṇa naturally has three manifestations, right? Three energetic manifestations: the Jiva Shakti, his internal potency, his Sarup Shakti, right? His internal potency, his external potency, and his marginal potency, right? And those respectively are his internal potency, his Sarup Shakti, his external potency, which is what we see here, this material energy, right? Also known as Maya, and the marginal potency, marginal energy, which is the living entity, you and I, but not only you and I, living entities, period, right? The ants, the insects, cows, horses, animals, dogs, the living entity, the soul that sparks life within the physical material body. And it's important to understand the nature of these three manifestations so one can effectively engage in this material world in a way that you're not bound by it. Because that's what's happening. I think the approach that a lot of people are taking it, although they are pushing against it, they don't realize that the very pushing against it, it's what keeps them bound by it, because they don't understand the nature of this world. And what do I mean by pushing against it? Giving it whatever it is, your attention in a mood of controlling. We have to understand, and I know this might be a little deep philosophical, philosophical subject for some people, but I think an important understanding and a premise to have to approach all these subjects, everything we're seeing today, is to approach it from the following premise: understanding the nature of this world, the nature of the Supreme Source, right? And the nature of who we really are, not this physical material body, and the dynamic between these three, why we are here, why we're living the momentum, why do we find ourselves in whatever situation we find ourselves in. And again, I'm not going to be able to address this in a 10-15 minute video, but it's just food for thought. And I will leave you guys with something that I came to understand, and for me it brought me peace. It brought me peace and certainty, right, to deal with everything that is going on around me. And based on those three things that I mentioned, I came to realize that my job, my only job, is to focus on what I want from the perspective of already having it, not from a perspective of lack of it. Because most of people approach what they want, right? You see people saying online, oh, you have to speak up, and usually means speak up against it, whatever it is. And based on this philosophy, based on the things that I just shared with you, if you understand the nature of this world, understand the nature of who we really are, and understand the nature of Source, you will see that that path is the path of most resistance. Because when we choose to do that, we're taking a position of controller. We're pushing against. We think we can change things, and we can't change anything. We're not the doer, right? Kṛṣṇa himself in the Bhagavad Gita, he says the living entity under the illusion of material energy thinks itself as the doer of activity, while it's material energy carrying out all the activities, right? We are literally sitting on that ride, right? If you ever been on the roller coaster, especially the ones in Universal, nowadays, it's a very immersive experience, right? You think you are there. You know, my family and I, we went to Harry Potter, the Hogwarts experience there in Orlando, and it's an immersive experience. You feel the heat when the dragon flies by you, right? When you're in that ride, and while in the ride, there's nothing I can do but desire it to stop, or there's no action I can take, right? And that is very much our position here in this material world. We have to be less action oriented and focus on our desire, and let that desire compel us to act, and understand that action then will be inspired action. That the evidence that it is inspired action is that will move you towards what you want, and you will speak of what you want instead of the lack of it. Most people approach life speaking against what they don't want. If you ask someone, and I challenge you to do that, if you ask someone that they're not happy with, ask them, so what do you want? They will say, oh, I don't want this. And that is not the question. The question is, what do you want? The question is not what you don't want. And that's what they usually say, right? I had for years been watching myself when I verbalize something. What am I saying, right? What am I expressing through sound vibration that is already cooking up, there's already taking momentum within my consciousness, within my heart. And I think that is a very important thing to realize. If we want change, if you want to have effective change in our surroundings, we cannot let the conditions dictate our attention, right? Our desire, our wanting has to be the one dictating our attention and our speech and what we choose to focus on. And when we do, we have to strongly one-pointed speak and talk about that, enhance that momentum. And it's an art. It's truly an art, because conditioning, a lot of us are so conditioned. I'm certainly so conditioned that I let the environment around me dictate my attention, dictate what I have my attention on. And that is called conditioned life, right? A conditioned soul. The conditions are dictating everything, every aspect of my life. And to be a liberated soul, a lot of people think, oh, he's liberated soul is something, oh, the guy's walking in clouds, right? And sure, if you catch someone with a lot of momentum living that type of life, you might be right. That's what everybody perceives, right? But in reality, it's a very practical thing. A liberated soul just focus on what is wanted, which is freedom, which is love, which is service, right? And I think that's what we need to do, right? That's what I need to do more and more. Focus on what's wanted and speak of what is wanted, right? And what is wanted? We want freedom, we want love, we want service, we want peace, we want happiness. So we have to speak that way, but it's hard when we see ourselves in the momentum of everything that is a contrast to what is wanted. That's what I want to share with whoever is listening today. As always, chant Hare Krsna and be happy. Hare Krsna.
Because of this, what you say, nimitta karana. This example is given, the potter. The potter makes earthen pots. You understand? So nimitta karana is clay and is wheel. You understand me? Potter has a wheel and clay. That is cause of the earthen pot. That's nimitta, karana, rupadana karana, ingredient. You understand? But potter is the chief cause. Do you follow my language? Similarly, Supreme Lord is the chief cause of the creation. Anadiradir, sarva karana karana. The cause of all causes. Ishvara Parama Kṛṣṇa Sajidananda Vigraha Nadiradir Govindam Sarva Karana Karanam.